Today I am making a kielbasa with sauerkraut and potatoes. So first I start, well, you saw at first I actually started with the onions I chopped up. But then I take 1 stick of cold butter and I add it to my pan and melt that down, and then I add those onions. Man, oh man, I love the smell of butter and onions. Whew, good times. But first I pick out some of the onion skins that I seem to have left on some of the onion pieces. And I'm trying to help the process along so that I don't end up burning my onions by melting a little more butter and moving it around. Notice that wrist action, yeah. So now we've got the garlic, 2 cloves of garlic, and I used originally 1 medium onion, and I use red onion because I love red onions. Okay, back to the garlic. Notice I squash it with my knife. This process makes it easier to peel the skins off of the garlic cloves. So I remove the skins and then I try and chop at my little garlic pieces that I have left to the smallest denominator. Sorry that the action of the slicing is slightly out of the frame, but I think you get an idea of what I'm doing. And into the pot with the onions and the butter go the garlic. But first we're going to look at the onions sizzling in the butter. Can't you smell it? The garlic. And it is at this point that I decide to season with these spices. I use black pepper and I use sea salt and tarragon. Now the recipe calls for salt, pepper, thyme, and sage. But I didn't have thyme and I didn't have sage. So I substituted with tarragon because it's kind of a sweet herb. It makes things sweet. And with sauerkraut, you can use a little sweet. So that's how I reasoned it. Use what you got. Sure is pretty, isn't it? Flecks of green and yellow butter. And notice my onions are getting a little brown. Good times right here, friends. Good times. And I just thought I'd show you my black pepper. And my sea salt. Lovely. And I will spot you my tarragon, which tastes absolutely wonderful in scrambled eggs. Now we move back to the counter where I show you my kielbasa, Hillshire Farm. I prefer Johnsonville, but you know, Hillshire Farm does it really, really well. And I take it out of the package and proceed to slice it. And I show you the sauerkraut that I'm using. I'm using a jarred sauerkraut versus one in a bag. It is a definite upgrade from using canned sauerkraut, which I suggest you don't do. The kielbasa then gets added to the pan with the butter and onions and garlic and seasonings, and so does the sauerkraut. And I let that simmer a little bit. Now I move it around and around in the pan, just kind of like trying to even out the sauerkraut in between the kielbasa pieces so that there's some even heat happening there. And then one of the more important things is the sanitizing of my wood board, and I have a nice antibacterial cleanser that I use on my wood board. A lot of people say you should not use water to clean your board, but I use my one board that I have for both vegetables and meat. So to keep from cross-contamination, I do wet it and use an antibacterial cleaner on it. And now I am ready for the slicing of the potatoes. Am I fast or what? Did you see that? Did you see that? Yeah, so those are my potatoes. Chop, chop, chop. And then I move them to the side and get out my big giant baking pan that I am going to pour the pan of sauerkraut, kielbasa, and onions and garlic and spices all into that lovely aluminum pan without making a mess or dropping it. Yeah, because I've done that before. I'm pretty clumsy in the kitchen. But one must feed themselves. And I add my potatoes and I stir that around and get it a nice even coating of everything. So when it cooks, all the juices are in there together and everything has a nice consistent flavor and cooking. Now the next thing is to put some aluminum foil over this pan, and the directions tells you to put it on lightly, so I just kind of fold the corners of the pan and I lift the center so that it's not tightly on but secure enough, and I place it in a 350-degree oven where it will cook for 3 hours, and this is the completed production. Yeah, it's wonderful.